This is Kathy Biehl of EmpowermentUnlimited.net with Astro-Insight for the week of December 4th, 2023. The end of the year, hustle and bustle has begun, although a bit slower and more cautious and deliberate than the usual. The high-spirited Sagittarian influences in the sky have all been tempered by a meeting with Saturn, taskmaster, planet of adulting, lord of structure, and also time, who likes to slow things down. And this week, we become increasingly focused on what is most important to us. So we become more selective in what we're bothering to do. Venus, the social director of the sky, the planet that rules what we value, how we treat each other, our attitude about money, our creativity and aesthetics. Venus moves into the sign of Scorpio and engenders a taste for privacy, for meaning, for selectiveness, for focus. Yes, you may still have an absolutely jam-packed schedule between now and December 31st, but see if you don't choose what you want to do based on what's really most meaningful to you. So this is not a year of running from holiday gathering to event to event to event, but laser focused on deep connection and experience. Saturn is still the gatekeeper of the doorway to every sign, so the first thing that happens after Venus makes this shift is a meeting with Saturn, planet of commitment. This is a trine, and it happens on the 5th. This contact is great for relationships stabilizing, for situations taking an actual form, for bringing contour to something that you've been wanting to have in your life. This makes it the most natural thing in the world to become very serious and responsible about relationships, your own creativity, your own creative output, and of course, lest we forget, what you're doing with your assets and money. This could also bring a payoff from something that you have been investing yourself in. But it's not all about cold, hard cash. In fact, very little of it is. Neptune, the planet of dreams, the planet of transcendence, the influence of otherworldliness, is stationing direct, which happens on the 6th. But it's an influence that is in the air, or rather in the water in our bodies. And the planet, all week. It's been there last week. It'll still be hanging around next week. This brings a sense of things beginning to move forward, of beginning to have the vision and the imagination to see something else happening in your life, in our world. And as the tide shifts, it very well may uncover something that was actually put in place in April of 2022 that you are only now just seeing. Could be very subtle, could be a creative inspiration, it could feel like a gift from God. And this would be a really good week to read a slim volume called Gift from the Sea by Anne Morrow Lindbergh, who was at one time married to Charles Lindbergh and an aviatrix herself. The outlook is great for a sense of wonder expanding, for a sense of possibility expanding, for seeing more and more and more that could actually physically be in your life. And very likely simply enjoying where you are right now on this spot in the time-space continuum. As we get into the weekend, Mercury, the planet that rules what goes in and out of our mouths and minds, is in an easy flow, a trine to Jupiter. Thinking, information, messages are practical. A number of them are likely future-oriented, clear, logical, step by step by step. This link opens us to seeing how much more anything could be. So anything that you're considering, pondering, trying to puzzle through, trying to plan as we get into the weekend, ask, how could I make this bigger? How could this be bigger? You might get a vision or a sensation, more likely, by the end of the weekend of how far something is out of your grasp when Venus opposes Jupiter on the 9th. But this could just as easily stretch your concept of what you might want, of what you might be entitled to. Venus and Jupiter are both influences of indulgence, and you may find stirring within you really deep desires and impulses that haven't come to conscious mind before. Maybe there's something that you have brushed under the carpet, but they're just going to come up and go, we're still here. Don't you really want us? The Mercury and the Venus links to Jupiter take us into next week, because next week begins with a handshake between our minds and our hearts, the way we look at things and what is happening in relationships and money situations. Mercury and Venus will have the opportunity aspect of a sextile as we get out of this weekend. But for right now, just notice how, even with a lot of chaos going on around you, there's a really nice sense of things being settled, okay, manageable in your part of the universe. And here's one other way to view the storyline, the arc of this week. Think of an extremely wide spectrum of desires, and then see that spectrum cut until it's maybe a third the size, much smaller. Actual proportion isn't important. And then once you go into that truncated portion, you experience that spectrum as even wider. Once you go into it, it feels even wider than what you had initially. Just play with it. Homing thought of the week: less is more. Song of the week, Seasons of Love from Rent. And the image of the week is the Grinch's heart growing 3 sizes. Oh, and a brief PSA again. My new book is, in fact, now available. Confessions of a Third-Rate Goddess, traipsing through a world gone weird. It is a romp through sexual ambiguity, ambivalence, tension, and other weirdness of single life in the 1990s. It's available at all the usual online places in all the formats you could want, except Audible. Don't have a spoken book yet. And it's in a bunch of offline bookstores as well. There's a link to information about it at the top of my site, empowermentunlimited.net, where you can read my forecast for December, sign up for my mailing list, and book a session with me. I'm Kathy Biehl, a professional astrologer with more than 30 years' experience. I host the show Celestial Compass on Om Times Radio on the first and third Monday of every month at 5 p.m. Eastern. This week, I'm talking about moon magic with Lorraine Henrik, who is the lunar queen who runs the rituals at Lunar Fair that a lot of you have seen me posting about quite a bit in the last couple of years. I host lively conversation on Facebook at Empowerment Unlimited and in the group, the Astro-Insight Lounge. I have lots of bonus content at patreon.com/Kathy Biehl. This month, it includes a look at the December solstice chart, and I'm really grateful to the people who support my work there. I post on Instagram and Threads at Kathy Biehl and on YouTube at the Professional Aquarian channel. Talk to you next week.